Alien girl falls in love at first sight after a casual bar talk with a human. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Zara had never been to Earth before. As a member of a prominent alien species, she had always been taught that humans were unpredictable, impulsive, and somewhat primitive. She had heard stories of human bravery, but also their capacity for chaos and destruction. Yet, here she was, standing in the middle of a bustling city on a planet that had quickly captured the attention of the galactic community. The Earth was everything she had expected: loud, busy, and filled with countless species, all mingling in the crowded streets and neon-lit bars. Zara had been sent to Earth on a diplomatic mission, tasked with forging new alliances and securing trade agreements. But today, her mission had taken an unexpected turn. She found herself walking into a small bar tucked away in the corner of the city, trying to escape the pressures of her high-profile role. Zara, still in her formal diplomatic attire, walked in with a sense of discomfort, but she was quickly greeted by the warm glow of the bar's low lights and the hum of casual conversations. There, at the far end of the room, sat John Carter, a man of no particular distinction, just a regular human bartender who had spent most of his life serving drinks and chatting with customers. Zara noticed him immediately. His presence, unremarkable as it seemed, exuded a strange calm. His kind eyes and easy smile stood out in a way she couldn't quite explain. He was a human, nothing special, yet everything was different when he looked at her. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to expect in a place like this. But she took a deep breath and walked toward the bar, where John was polishing glasses. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, her voice calm yet curious. John looked up, his gaze meeting hers. For a moment, he seemed surprised by her appearance, but then a soft smile appeared on his face. "Not at all. Please, have a seat." As Zara sat down, she couldn't help but feel an odd sense of comfort. John didn't look at her as if she were some alien royalty, as so many others did. Instead, he regarded her with the same ease he would a fellow human. "I don't think I've seen you around here before," John said, his voice warm and inviting. "First time on Earth?" Zara nodded, a soft chuckle escaping her lips. "Yes, I suppose I'm a bit out of my element." John raised an eyebrow. "You don't look too out of place. You seem comfortable." Zara couldn't help but smile at his comment. "I'm just trying to figure this place out." "Well, Earth can be overwhelming at first," John said, his tone light. "But if you give it time, you might just start liking it here." They continued to talk about their respective worlds, the differences between them, and the things they found strange or fascinating about each other. Zara listened intently, her curiosity growing with every word. What she had initially thought would be a dull conversation had become something far more intriguing. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Zara felt like she was seeing the planet through a different lens, one not shaped by the eyes of diplomats or warriors, but from the perspective of a simple human. As the night wore on, the bar grew quieter, the conversations fading into the background as Zara and John spoke about everything and nothing at all. It was in this moment, as their eyes met and lingered, that Zara realized something profound. She had come to Earth expecting to deal with negotiations, politics, and business. She had never expected to find a human who would make her heart beat faster with just a casual conversation. She hadn't planned for this moment, for the connection that was forming between them. But somehow, as the night stretched on, Zara found herself falling for a human, a simple bartender who had no idea of the depth of the feelings that were beginning to bloom in her chest. As the night went on, Zara found herself lost in the conversation with John. It wasn't just the words he spoke, but the way he spoke them. His voice had a calm, reassuring tone, like a melody that made everything feel more at ease. Zara, who had always been taught to stay guarded and distant, found herself letting down her walls, if only just a little. She had dealt with so many people who treated her like a tool of diplomacy, constantly sizing her up, analyzing her status. But John didn't do that. He simply treated her as a person, a fellow being, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. As they exchanged stories about their worlds, Zara couldn't help but feel a growing connection, one she didn't expect. Earth had always seemed like a chaotic, unpredictable planet, but John made it feel welcoming, almost familiar. John, on the other hand, was thoroughly captivated by Zara. He had never met anyone like her. Her presence was striking, her deep blue skin, her shining violet eyes, and her aura of mystery. Yet, it wasn't just her appearance that intrigued him. It was her intellect, the way she thought, the way she viewed the world. At first, John had thought she was just another diplomat, a high-ranking alien here for some important political business. But as their conversation continued, he realized there was so much more to her than that. He noticed how she would pause when she spoke, as if carefully considering each word, yet she was also completely present, fully engaged in their talk. Zara smiled at John's stories of Earth. She found herself laughing, something she hadn't done freely in a long time. The weight of her mission and her responsibilities seemed to lift, if only for a brief moment, as she allowed herself to simply enjoy the moment. "You know," John said, leaning back in his seat, "I've met all kinds of people from all over the galaxy, but none quite like you. You're not like the others. You don't act like you're above anyone, even though I can tell you're important." Zara shifted slightly, her fingers brushing against the rim of her glass. "I've spent so much of my life serving others, doing what's expected of me," she said softly, her voice tinged with something that resembled vulnerability. "But sometimes, I wonder if anyone would care about me if I weren't so important." John's eyes softened. "I care," he said simply. Zara blinked, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. She hadn't expected him to say that. There was a long pause, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Zara wasn't sure how to respond. She had never let anyone get this close to her, not like this. But something in John's gaze made her feel safe, as if, for the first time in her life, she could truly be herself. The evening stretched on, the quiet hum of the bar around them now a mere backdrop to the warmth between them. As they continued talking, Zara realized something she hadn't expected. She was falling for this human. A simple man with no grandeur, no political power, no flashy reputation. Just John. It was unexpected, but Zara couldn't deny the pull she felt whenever he looked at her, the warmth that spread through her chest when they shared a laugh. John felt it too, but he wasn't sure what to make of it. His life had always been simple. He'd never thought of himself as special, but when he looked at Zara, he felt something extraordinary. He had never believed in love at first sight, but here he was, feeling something deep and genuine for this alien woman who had walked into his life so unexpectedly. Zara's gaze softened as she looked at him, the edges of her mouth turning upward. "John," she said quietly, her voice laced with something she hadn't let herself feel in a long time. "I never thought I'd find someone like you." John smiled, the warmth in his eyes matching hers. "I think we're both a little out of our element here." Zara nodded. "Maybe, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We're both learning, together." The words hung in the air between them, a promise of something new, something neither of them had anticipated. And in that moment, under the dim lights of the bar, Zara realized that her time on Earth might not be just about business after all. It could be about something far more meaningful, something she had never imagined she would find, love. As the days passed, Zara found herself drawn to John more than she had anticipated. Their conversations had become a regular part of her day, a welcome escape from the weight of her diplomatic mission. Zara had never thought much about love, especially not with a human. But John was different. His simplicity, his warmth, his willingness to listen, it was all so disarming. She had expected to come to Earth, do her job, and return home. But now, she was beginning to question if there was more for her here. John, too, felt the pull between them. He had always kept his life uncomplicated, never looking for anything more than a simple, steady existence. But Zara had changed that. She brought something into his life he hadn't known he needed: excitement, curiosity, and a feeling he couldn't shake. They spent more time together, each moment deepening the connection they shared. John took Zara on walks around the city, showing her the places he loved. They explored parks, cafes, and quiet spots by the water. Zara found herself fascinated by the little things, the way the sunlight glinted off the river's surface, the taste of Earth's coffee, the strange but wonderful human way of life. She had never been one to dwell on such things, but with John, everything seemed new. Their bond grew stronger with every conversation. Zara, who had spent her life in the midst of political intrigue and diplomatic games, began to appreciate the simplicity of just being with John, talking about nothing in particular, but feeling everything. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city's skyline, Zara's hand brushed against John's. She paused, looking at their hands, unsure of how to proceed. John looked at her, sensing her hesitation. "Zara, you don't have to feel any pressure," he said, his voice gentle, reassuring. "We're in no rush." Zara smiled, a small but genuine smile. "It's not about pressure," she replied softly. "It's about me realizing that I've spent so much time trying to do everything the right way, trying to meet expectations, that I forgot what it feels like to just be. With you, I can just be." John's heart softened at her words. He had known she was different from anyone he had met before, but hearing her admit it made him feel something even deeper. "I understand," he said, taking her hand in his. "We don't need to have everything figured out right now. We can just enjoy the moment, enjoy each other's company." Zara nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was a warmth she hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. It was the warmth of someone seeing her, truly seeing her, and accepting her as she was. They sat in silence for a while, the city lights twinkling in the distance. Zara felt a peace she hadn't experienced in ages. She realized she had been so focused on her responsibilities, her mission, that she had forgotten to live. And now, with John, she felt like she was finally starting to understand what it meant to live fully. It wasn't about the power or the titles, it was about the small moments, the quiet conversations, the shared laughter, the way someone's presence could make everything feel right. "John," Zara said after a long pause, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm glad I met you." John turned to face her, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I'm glad too." In that moment, it was as if the world around them had faded away, leaving only the two of them. They didn't need words anymore. The connection they shared was enough. It was enough to just be in that moment, together, without any pretenses, just two souls finding solace in each other's company. Zara had come to Earth expecting to fulfill a mission, but now, she realized that her mission had changed. It wasn't just about alliances or trade agreements anymore. It was about something far more profound. It was about love, and for the first time in her life, she was ready to embrace it fully. As the days went by, Zara and John continued to spend more time together, each day strengthening the bond between them. Zara, who had once been so focused on her mission, found herself looking forward to the simple moments with John, long walks in the park, quiet evenings by the river, and deep conversations that stretched long into the night. She had always thought of Earth as a chaotic, unpredictable planet, but now, she was beginning to see its beauty in a new light. John, too, had started to look at Zara differently. She wasn't just an alien diplomat anymore. She was someone he could trust, someone who made him feel seen and understood. For the first time in his life, John felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. The connection between them was undeniable. It wasn't just physical attraction, though that certainly existed. It was something deeper, something that went beyond their differences. As much as Zara tried to focus on her mission, she couldn't ignore the growing feelings she had for John. She found herself thinking about him more than she should. There was something about the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel safe, accepted, and at ease. She had never experienced anything like this before. One evening, after a long day of walking through the city, Zara and John sat together on the edge of a quiet bridge overlooking a sparkling river. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink as the sun began to set. Zara was quiet for a moment, watching the water flow beneath them. John, sensing the change in her mood, turned to her with a gentle smile. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice soft and inviting. Zara sighed, looking at the horizon. "I don't know what's happening to me, John. I came here to do a job, to fulfill my duty to my people. But now, I don't know if that's all I want anymore." John reached over and took her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to have everything figured out right now," he said. "We're both figuring things out, and that's okay." Zara turned to him, her violet eyes meeting his brown ones. "I've never been able to just be, you know? I've always had to be someone else, someone powerful, someone with a purpose. But with you, I feel like I can just be Zara. John smiled, his thumb gently brushing the back of her hand. And that's all you need to be. Zara, the person I'm getting to know, not the alien diplomat. Zara felt her heart race at his words. She had never expected to find someone who would accept her so completely, someone who wouldn't judge her for her title, her power, or her past. With John, she was just Zara, human, flawed, and real. The realization hit her hard, and she couldn't help but smile. You make me want to be better, she said softly. John looked at her, his expression tender. You already are better than you think. There was a moment of silence as they both looked out at the river, the weight of their feelings hanging in the air. Zara had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable, yet so safe. She knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. With John, as they sat there, the evening settling around them, Zara realized something that surprised her even more than her growing feelings for John. She wasn't just in love with him. She was falling in love with Earth itself. The people, the places, the strange yet beautiful way it all worked together. She had come to Earth expecting to change it, to bring her alien perspective to a world full of chaos. But now, she realized that it was Earth that was changing her. And she was ready to embrace whatever came next, as long as it was with John by her side. Zara sat in the small cafe, her fingers wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, the warmth spreading through her body. She looked out the window, watching the world go by, but her mind was elsewhere. Her mission, her purpose, her life as a diplomat, all of it felt distant now. The only thing that mattered, the only thing that felt real, was John. It had been weeks since she had first arrived on Earth, and in that time, everything had changed. What had started as a professional assignment had turned into something far more profound. Zara had never believed in love at first sight, especially not with a human. She had always been taught that emotions like these were distractions, that they had no place in the world of politics and power. But now, sitting here, sipping coffee with John, she realized how wrong she had been. Her heart had shifted in ways she hadn't expected. It wasn't just the moments they shared, it was the way he made her feel, safe, seen, accepted. John had never once asked her to be anyone but herself. He had never seen her as a symbol of power or an alien diplomat. He saw her as Zara, the woman, and that was enough for him. That realization filled her with warmth. But as much as Zara wanted to stay in this moment, there was something she couldn't ignore. The reason she had come to Earth in the first place. Her mission was still waiting for her, and the fate of her people depended on it. She had responsibilities, obligations, and she had already begun to see the consequences of her time spent with John. There was a part of her that felt guilty, as though she were betraying her people by allowing herself to fall for someone so ordinary, so human. Yet, when she was with John, she felt a sense of peace that no amount of duty or responsibility had ever brought her. John's voice broke her thoughts as he slid into the seat across from her. "Penny for your thoughts," he asked, his smile warm and inviting. Zara looked at him, her heart racing, and for a moment, she forgot about everything else. "I was just thinking about how much has changed since I met you," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. John raised an eyebrow. "In a good way, I hope?" Zara smiled, the corners of her lips curling upward. "In a way I never imagined possible." She took a deep breath, the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her. "But there's something I have to tell you, something I've been avoiding." John's expression grew serious. "You can tell me anything, Zara." She met his gaze, searching his eyes for reassurance. "I came to Earth with a purpose, John. I have responsibilities that I can't ignore. I've been sent here to build alliances, to secure a future for my people. But the more time I spend with you, the harder it becomes to remember why I came here in the first place." John's gaze softened, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Zara, I get it. You're torn between duty and something that feels real, something that's right here in front of you. But you don't have to make that decision alone. I'm not asking you to choose me over your mission, but I'm asking you to think about what you really want." Zara felt a lump form in her throat. She had never been good at balancing her emotions with her duties. "I don't know what I want anymore," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I never expected to feel this way about anyone, especially not a human." John smiled gently, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. It's okay to not have all the answers right now. You're figuring it out, just like I am. Whatever you decide, I'll be here for you. Zara's heart swelled with gratitude. She had spent so much of her life alone, carrying the weight of expectations. But here, with John, she felt like she could finally breathe. She didn't have to have all the answers. She didn't have to solve the world's problems in one moment. All she had to do was be true to herself. And that's exactly what John had been showing her all along. Thank you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. For everything. John squeezed her hand gently. You don't need to thank me. I'm just happy I met you. Zara smiled, the uncertainty that had been clouding her mind slowly fading away. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she was ready to face it with an open heart. Whatever happened, she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was all she needed. The next few days felt like a whirlwind for Zara. After her conversation with John, she was torn between her responsibilities as a diplomat and the growing feelings she had for him. She knew her mission was far from over, and the weight of her duties was something she couldn't ignore. But every time she saw John, every time they talked, she felt something pull her in. It was confusing, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. As much as she had tried to distance herself from those feelings, it was becoming impossible. She couldn't deny the connection between them any longer. John had become a part of her life, and she didn't know how to let go. She found herself thinking about him even when she was in the middle of her meetings, distracted by his smile, the sound of his voice. It was a constant battle in her mind. On one hand, there was her duty, the reason she had come to Earth. But on the other hand, there was John, human, simple, real. She had never felt more alive than when she was with him. One evening, after a long day of meetings and discussions about trade agreements, Zara found herself at the same cafe where she and John had talked for the first time. It was quiet, and the lights in the cafe cast a soft, warm glow. Zara sat at a table by the window, her thoughts drifting back to the decision she had to make. She had come here with a purpose, but now that purpose seemed to be slipping through her fingers, replaced by something far more personal. Mind if I join you? John's voice broke her thoughts, and she looked up to find him standing there, holding 2 cups of coffee. She smiled, her heart skipping a beat. Of course, she said, gesturing to the empty seat across from her. As he sat down, he handed her a cup. I figured you could use something to help you unwind, he said, his smile warm and genuine. Zara took the cup, the aroma of the coffee soothing her. Thank you, John, she said softly. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, the sound of the cafe's quiet chatter in the background. Zara felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. It was as if the world outside didn't matter when she was with him. Finally, John spoke. Zara, I know you've been dealing with a lot, but I want you to know that whatever you decide, I'll be here for you. His words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Zara felt a lump form in her throat. She had never been this vulnerable, never allowed herself to rely on anyone before. But with John, it felt different. I don't know what to do, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. My duty, it's everything I've ever known. But when I'm with you, it's like nothing else matters. John's expression softened, and he reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. You don't have to choose between your duty and what you feel, Zara. No one can tell you what's right for you. But I think you deserve to be happy. And you deserve someone who sees you for who you are, not just the role you play. Zara's heart swelled at his words. She had spent so long hiding behind her title, behind her responsibilities. But with John, she felt like she could just be herself. I've never felt this way before, she said, her voice shaky. I don't know if I can just let go of everything. John smiled gently, squeezing her hand. You don't have to let go of everything. You just need to find a balance, something that feels right to you. I'm not asking you to choose me, but I'm asking you to choose what makes you happy. Zara looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of clarity. She had always been focused on the future, on what she was supposed to do, that she had never stopped to think about what she wanted. John had given her the space to think, to feel, and for that, she was grateful. I want to stay with you, John, she said, her voice steady now. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to be here, with you, for as long as I can. John's smile grew wider, and he reached over, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'm glad to hear that, he said softly. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. Zara felt a weight lift off her shoulders, a sense of peace settling in her heart. She didn't have all the answers, and maybe she never would. But for now, she was content. She had found something real, something worth fighting for. And she wasn't going to let it slip away. She didn't know what the future held, but with John by her side, she was ready to face it, together. The weeks that followed brought a sense of comfort and balance Zara hadn't expected to find. Her life, once filled with obligations, negotiations, and a constant stream of demands, had slowed in a way she hadn't known was possible. John had become her anchor, the one person who made her feel like she could breathe again. They spent their days exploring more of Earth, enjoying simple pleasures like visiting local markets, walking through parks, and sitting in quiet cafes. Zara found herself letting go of the rigidity that had once defined her, embracing the spontaneity of her time with John. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. Her feelings for him only grew stronger with each passing day. Yet, as much as she tried to focus on the present, her duty loomed over her. The mission she had come to Earth for was never far from her mind. Zara knew she had a responsibility to her people, a duty to secure alliances, to be the diplomat they had sent her to be. But now, the weight of that responsibility felt heavier, more burdensome than ever. One evening, as they sat together in the small apartment Zara had been renting, John turned to her with a serious look in his eyes. "Zara," he began, his voice low, but steady, "I've been thinking. I know how important your mission is to you, and I can't imagine how hard it must be to balance that with, well, everything else." Zara looked at him, her heart racing. "I don't want to let you down, John, but I feel like I'm losing myself in all of this. I came here to do a job, but the more I stay, the more I feel like I'm drifting away from what I'm supposed to be." John took her hand in his touch reassuring. "You're not losing yourself, Zara. You're just finding something new. Something that matters to you. Something that makes you feel whole." Zara let out a breath, her fingers tightening around his. "But what if it's too late? What if I've already made a choice, and I can't go back?" John smiled softly, his eyes filled with understanding. "I don't think it's about going back. It's about moving forward. Whatever you decide, I'm here with you, no matter what." Zara felt a lump form in her throat, the weight of her emotions threatening to break through. "I don't know what to do, John. I don't know how to balance what I feel with what's expected of me." John squeezed her hand gently. "You don't have to do it alone. You're not just some diplomat to me, Zara. You're someone I care about. And that's all that matters right now." The sincerity in his voice broke through the walls she had built around herself. Zara knew, deep down, that she had been holding herself back, afraid of making the wrong choice. But in that moment, she realized that maybe the wrong choice wasn't something she had to fear. It was the fear of not choosing at all that had held her captive. "I've spent so much of my life thinking that I had to have everything figured out," Zara said softly, her voice trembling. "But I don't have all the answers. And I don't know what the future holds. But what I do know is that I don't want to lose what we have." John leaned forward, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "You won't lose me, Zara. I'm right here." Zara looked into his eyes, feeling the weight of her decision lift just a little. It wasn't about choosing one life over the other. It was about finding a way to merge the two, to make a path that was uniquely hers. And with John by her side, she felt like she could do anything. "I want to be with you," she said, her voice steady now. "I don't know how everything will work out, but I know I can't imagine my life without you in it." John's smile was warm and genuine, and for the first time in a long time, Zara felt like she had found something worth holding on to. "Then we'll figure it out together," he said, his voice full of promise. And in that moment, Zara knew that no matter where her mission took her next, she had found something that mattered more than anything else, someone who saw her for who she truly was, and who would stand by her side, no matter what the future held. The weeks that followed felt like a delicate balance for Zara. She had made a choice, a decision that had torn at her heart for so long. But with John's unwavering support, she found herself embracing the uncertainty of the future with more confidence than she had ever thought possible. Zara had returned to her duties as a diplomat, but it was different now. Her mission was no longer a distant task that she performed out of obligation. It had become something she wanted to succeed in, for her people, yes, but also for herself. The connection she shared with John grounded her. He was her anchor, The one person who made her feel like she could be both the diplomat and the woman she had come to be. She had spent so long trying to define herself by her title, her responsibilities, and her mission. But now, she realized that it wasn't just about what she did. It was about who she was and who she wanted to be. John was a part of that realization. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Zara met John at their usual cafe. He was sitting at the same table by the window, a warm smile spreading across his face when he saw her. She could feel the weight of the day melt away just by looking at him. As she sat down, he pushed a cup of coffee toward her. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice full of understanding. Zara smiled and took a sip of the coffee, savoring the warmth. "It wasn't the easiest, but I'm managing." She looked at him, her heart full. "I've been thinking a lot lately, John. About everything." He leaned forward, his expression serious but gentle. "What's on your mind?" "I've spent so much of my life doing what others expected of me. I never really stopped to think about what I wanted. But being with you, I realized that I can have both. I can do my job and still have something real, something that makes me happy." John's eyes softened, and he reached across the table to take her hand. "You're not alone in this, Zara. You never will be." Zara squeezed his hand, feeling a deep sense of relief. "I've always been afraid of losing control, of not living up to expectations. But with you, I don't feel like I need to control everything. I can just be." John smiled, his thumb gently brushing over her hand. "That's the most important thing, Zara. You deserve to be happy, not just because of what you do for others, but because of who you are." As they sat there, talking about their hopes and dreams, Zara realized just how much she had changed since meeting John. He had opened her eyes to the possibility of living a life that wasn't defined by duty or obligation. It was a life where love, happiness, and fulfillment could exist alongside everything else. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt like she could breathe, like she wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. And as she looked at John, she knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. There would still be challenges, difficult decisions, and responsibilities. But Zara had learned that she didn't have to face them alone. With John by her side, she felt ready to take on whatever came next. "I don't know what the future holds," Zara said quietly, her voice full of emotion, "but I know I'm ready for it. With you." John smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and promise. "We'll figure it out together, Zara. Whatever comes, we'll take it one step at a time." Zara felt her heart swell with affection for him. She knew there was still so much to learn, so much to navigate, but for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Not just on Earth, not just as a diplomat, but as herself. And with John by her side, she was ready to embrace whatever came next with an open heart. The days turned into weeks, and Zara felt a sense of balance in her life that she had never known before. With John by her side, her world had shifted from one of duty and obligation to one filled with possibility and hope. They continued to grow closer, sharing their dreams, their fears, and their desires, all while navigating the complexities of Zara's mission on Earth. Zara's work still demanded her attention. There were still meetings to attend, treaties to discuss, and decisions to be made. But now, she no longer felt like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. John had become her constant, her anchor, and with him, she found the strength to face whatever challenges came her way. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Zara's apartment, overlooking the city lights, John turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Zara, I've been thinking," he said, his voice soft but serious. "I know how important your work is, and I know how much it means to you. But I also see how much you've changed since we met. You're not just a diplomat anymore. You're someone who deserves to live for yourself, too." Zara smiled, her heart swelling at his words. "I know. I've been so focused on my duty for so long that I forgot about myself. But with you, I've remembered what it feels like to just be me. Not just the diplomat, not just the alien, but Zara. And that's something I never expected to find." John reached out and gently took her hand in his. "You deserve to have both," he said. "Your work, your purpose, but also your happiness. You don't have to choose between them. And you don't have to do it alone." Zara's eyes glistened with emotion as she looked at him. "I never thought it was possible. But with you, I feel like I can have it all." John smiled, his thumb brushing over her hand. "You already do." They sat in companionable silence, the sounds of the city below mixing with the quiet of the night. Zara thought about everything she had learned over the past few months. She had come to Earth expecting to fulfill a mission, to build alliances and secure the future of her people. But what she had found here was so much more. She had found love, companionship, and a new understanding of herself. She had found someone who didn't see her as an alien or a diplomat, but as a person with hopes, dreams, and a future worth fighting for. As the night stretched on, Zara leaned into John, feeling the warmth of his presence beside her. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. She had someone to face it with, and that was enough. John, she said quietly, breaking the silence. Whatever happens, I'm glad I met you. He kissed her forehead softly, his lips warm against her skin. Me too, Zara. Me too. And in that moment, with the city lights sparkling below them and the promise of a new beginning ahead, Zara knew that her journey was just beginning. She had found something worth fighting for. She had found someone who made her feel like she could be more than just her title, her responsibilities, her past. With John by her side, the future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace, together.